The content in this video is for general educational use. It does not represent political opinions or judgments about any country, culture, or government. Information is based on publicly available sources and may be summarized or simplified. Viewers should verify details through multiple sources.
Let's settle in for a story. It's a tale of two neighbors living on islands separated by water, but, they're connected by the vast Indian Ocean. It's a story about a friendship that was really tested, a quarrel that echoed across the waves, and that long journey back to calm shores. So our two neighbors are India, this huge sprawling nation, and the Maldives, a truly beautiful republic of over 1,000 coral islands. For decades, their relationship was built on this foundation of shared history, of culture, and mutual respect. India was one of the very first countries to even recognize the Maldives' independence way back in 1965. And since then, they've been more than just neighbors. They've really been partners. And like any good neighbor, India was often the first one you'd call in a crisis. Think back to 1988, during something called Operation Cactus. When a coup attempt threatened the Maldivian government, India stepped in within hours to restore order. It was this really clear sign of a deep, protective bond, almost like a silent guardian, always there, ready to help. But, as with any long story, the plot eventually began to change. In 2023, the tides of this friendship started to shift when the Maldives elected a new leader, a new captain with a very different map for the nation's future. For years, the course was guided by an India-first policy. It was pretty simple: prioritize the relationship with their closest large neighbor. But the new president, Mohamed Muizzu, he came to power with a very different message. It was a simple but powerful slogan that charted a whole new direction: India out. The goal was clear: reduce Indian influence on the island. So, why this really dramatic shift? Well, it wasn't just politics. It was rooted in emotion. There was this growing feeling among some Maldivians of being too dependent on their big neighbor. It was a story of national pride, really, a desire to stand on their own 2 feet and protect their sovereignty. And right into this story walked another character, China, a new, powerful friend offering these grand infrastructure projects as part of its own expansive story across the Indian Ocean. And you can really hear the feeling behind this new course in President Muizzu's own words from early 2024. He said, "We may be small, but that doesn't give you the license to bully us." It was a real declaration of independence, a message that the Maldives, despite its size, demanded to be treated as an equal. But this push for independence, well, it soon led to a flashpoint. What started as a pretty small disagreement quickly became a war of words, like a single spark on the shore that just ignited a diplomatic firestorm. And it all began, as so many modern conflicts do, online. The Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, posted these beautiful pictures from a visit to India's own Lakshadweep Islands, just encouraging domestic tourism. Honestly, in most circumstances, it would have been an unremarkable post. But in the Maldives, where tourism is the absolute lifeblood of the economy, some people saw it as a direct challenge. The reaction was incredibly swift and sharp. Several junior ministers in the Maldivian government took to social media with deeply offensive, really personal remarks against the Indian Prime Minister. And it was these few careless words that changed everything. They turned a simple tourism promotion into a full-blown international incident. And in our digital world, those words traveled with the speed of wind. Within hours, millions had seen the posts. The spark from the shore had caught, and it was fanned by these online currents into a huge storm of public outrage. Over in India, the response was immediate and just overwhelming. The hashtag Boycott Maldives absolutely exploded across social media. Celebrities, influencers, regular citizens, they all joined in, canceling holidays and vowing to never visit the island nation again. It was a powerful, very public rejection of the insults. This online storm quickly washed ashore, and it brought with it some very real consequences. The quarrel between the two neighbors wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore. Now it was about empty beaches and a very real economic and human cost. The impact was pretty much immediate. In 2023, India had been the #1 source of tourists to the Maldives. That friendship was good for business. But just 1 month after the dispute, by January 2024, India had plunged all the way down to 5th place. The boycott was clearly working. In fact, in the first few months of 2024, the number of Indian tourists visiting the Maldives dropped by a staggering 42% compared to the year before. For a nation where tourism makes up nearly a third of its entire economy, well, that was a devastating blow. But the cost went beyond just money. In the middle of all these tensions, a Maldivian teenager tragically passed away while waiting for a medical evacuation. A request for an air ambulance to India, something that was a common procedure in the past, was denied by the authorities. It was a heartbreaking reminder that when neighbors fight, the consequences can be profound, and sometimes irreversible. The cost of this quarrel was just becoming too high for either side to ignore. It was time to put away the harsh words and begin the slow, difficult work of mending the friendship, of rebuilding the bridge that had been so badly damaged. Reconciliation began with small, deliberate steps. First, the ministers who posted the remarks were suspended. Then, President Muizu traveled to India for Prime Minister Modi's swearing-in ceremony, a really significant gesture. This was followed by official state visits, with each leader crossing the ocean to meet the other, signaling a shared desire to just move forward. But words and visits, they weren't enough. Rebuilding this bridge required real, concrete actions. India extended new financial support and helped ease the Maldives' debt burden. And a key point of tension, the presence of Indian military personnel, was resolved by replacing them with civilian technicians. Crucially, India's support for major projects like the Greater Malay Connectivity Bridge continued, showing a commitment that went beyond politics. And this brings our story full circle. After the bridge was mended, President Muizu's message changed completely. His new words stood in such stark contrast to his earlier rhetoric. No one can break India-Maldives ties. The India Out slogan was replaced by a language of partnership. It was a recognition that despite the storms, the two neighbors really truly needed each other. And so our story ends here, but not really with a final answer. It ends more with a question for all of us to reflect on. The tale of India and the Maldives is a reminder that even the oldest friendships can be tested by new ambitions and changing world dynamics. It shows us that navigating these turbulent waters requires a delicate balance of asserting independence while also cherishing the shared history that connects us all.